Hey, welcome to Optimize Your Body with Martin Silva, where we talk raw, uncut facts to truly help you optimize your body.
How we going, people? We're here, episode 28, and we are getting some momentum. Wow, that was a long word to start with. We're getting some momentum with this podcast now, so thank you very much for listening. And keep tuning in and keep spreading the words. Come on, let's keep growing and let's keep giving people the right information when it comes to health, because health's important. You need to optimize your body, or at least get your body in a healthy state. For the most part, it'll go a long way. Let's face it, health and how we look is pretty important to us in this day and age. So, yeah, anyway, before I go off on a tangent, let's get into this. So today's subject is going to be my top tips for building your booty or building your glutes, bum muscles, whatever you want to call it. Now, I get a lot of people asking me, mainly women, asking me the best exercise for your bum, to, you know, because let's face it, especially with women nowadays, they want to build a respectable booty, you know, and it's great because where we're at right now, it's like, you remember the like skinny kind of thing back in, I don't know, Posh Spice springs to mind, you know, Victoria Beckham, back whenever it was, 10, 15 years ago, when it was skinny was the cool thing, yeah? Where all the celebrities were really skinny and, you know, eating celery and drinking water, whatever they were doing, you know, and they weren't healthy. It wasn't about health, right? It was about skinny, which is stupid. Now, it's great that people, especially women, actually want to build muscle. They want their booty to be bigger, you know? Whereas back in the day, they'd be happy with a bum as flat as a pancake, as long as they were skinny, you know? So it is great to see this movement. So, yeah, it's a hot topic right now, building the booty. And even guys, you know, I don't get many guys asking, to be honest, I can't recall many at all. In fact, I can't recall any guys asking me, hey mate, can you tell me how to build my bum muscles? I haven't quite had that yet. However, you know, we all, even guys want a tight bum, you know, they want tight glutes. You want everything to be in proportion. If you're putting the work in the gym, then surely you want a symmetrical, you know, admirable physique. So, you know, the glutes do come into that. Anyway, I'm getting a bit excited about this bum talk now. I'm going to get into the facts and try and keep it entertaining as usual so you don't fall asleep on me. So, yeah, my top tips. Now, let's just go into, maybe I'll go into the best exercises first, right, for building your bum. Now, the problem is, this day and age, we have lots of information available to us, which is great. That's not a problem. It's great. You know, we live in an exciting era right now where on your smartphone, you can access any information you want. Now, unfortunately, we're also inundated with a lot of bullshit, and that's where I come in. Now, the best exercise. Now, the problem is, like, I have clients, obviously I'm a personal trainer, I have clients and people, women I have spoken to, and a lot of them are following people on Instagram. You know, women they look up to, and rightly so. Women they not so much look up to, but women they want to, you know, they find it motivating and inspiring, based on the physique these women have. Now that gives them motivation, and they kind of learn from them. So they'll look at the exercise they do, look at their lifestyle, and try and mimic some of the stuff they do, which is, you know, only normal, right? And that's great if you're doing it, if you select the right people to follow and observe, then it's going to be great, because you're going to get, you know, you're going to move forward and make progress in the gym. However, a lot of women follow these kind of supermodels out in Miami or wherever they are, and firstly, these women are genetic freaks. Okay, they're in the small 1 percentile of people. 1%, percentile, is that a word? They're in the small 1% of people who have freaky genetics, and they look great all year round. Also, they train their bollocks off every day in, day out, and for the most part, their nutrition is pretty good. So, you know, they've been doing it, and on top of that, they've been doing it for years and years on end, much like myself. You know, I've been lifting weights for 16 years. A lot of these women you'll see on there, you know, they've been lifting weights for the same, if not longer amount of time. And even if it's for someone with freaky genetics, they could be lifting weights consistently for even a year and look absolutely incredible. Even less than a year, I've known some people. So you just got to bear that in mind, ladies, right? And guys, really. So you see a lot of these women, they're very clever at what they do, right? In terms of selling programs and making money and building a business. And it's probably why it's taken me so bloody long to make an income online, because I'm not going down the route of, I want these exercises to look fancy, and because I know that draws attention. When I first started out as a PT, I started off that way. I started off nowhere near as knowledgeable as I am now, and I used to do exercises with people which were different. Oh, I'm going to shock their system. I want to stand out in the gym. I want to do something which looks fancy, because humans are drawn to novelty, right? It's an evolutionary thing. It's been proven. We're drawn to different things that look different and exciting and novelty, right? Anyway, I'm going off on one here. So what happens is they'll look at these models and they'll be like, wow, okay, so you'll see this particular person, for example, on Instagram, this supermodel, she's doing all this fancy stuff with bands. Yeah, a lot of you women could probably relate to this. Guys, I bet it goes loads. Guys probably watch this more than women, right? Just for the eye candy. The guys listen to this. But you see them doing all this stuff with bands and lightweights, like tying things around their ankles and all this bullshit. Nah, it has its place. I'll come to that in a bit. But it's just so unimportant. It's unbelievable when it comes to actually building muscle in general, looking better, building strength, and building a booty which is going to turn heads, right? Because that's what we're talking about right here. We're not messing around, right? We're going to the top here, folks, right? So stay tuned on this one, because I'm gonna teach you how to build an awesome booty. Wow, I shouldn't have had that coffee earlier. Bloody hell. Anyways, so don't get led astray by people you see on Instagram or even in the gym. You see them doing stuff with the bands, tying the ankle to machines and doing hip extensions and all this fancy looking stuff, which is good for activating your glutes, which I'll get to. But in terms of actually building your booty, the best exercises are squats, barbell squats. The king of any exercise. Get that bar on your back. Get that bar on your back, right? Sit it down nice and low on your shoulders, so it's not too high up, it's not on your neck, and it's hurting your neck, because a lot of people complain about that. Oh, my neck, can you get me the pad? And I'm like, rolling my eyes. Yeah, I get you the pad. Jesus, grow up here, will you? Anyways, sit it down a bit lower, so it's not on your cervical, right? So it's a bit lower down, below your cervical vertebrae, your neck bone, essentially, on your shoulder blades, right? A bit lower down on your shoulder blades. So you're rolling the bar down a bit lower, and that's going to get you more glute activation. And get down there and squat properly with a good technique. Now, that's a lot easier said than done. It's a skill. Again, I'll elaborate on that in a bit. So squats is number 1, okay? Deadlifts, number 2. So squats is king, deadlifts is queen. Now, there's a variety of different deadlifts you can do. Sumo deadlifts, if you do a really, really wide stance, right? So you've got your toes pointing out to maybe like 2 o'clock, and you grab the bar towards the middle, wide stance, sumo stance, and your bum is elevated in the air, and you're driving, you're hinging from the hips and extending up. Okay, wide stance deadlifts. Squeezing the glutes at the top. So you extend that back, and you have got to squeeze the shit out of your glutes. Not literally, but you know what I mean. You've got to squeeze your glutes hard to connect to those muscles. Again, I'm going to elaborate on this, because connecting to the glutes is the most important thing. Lifting weights, as I always say, is 70 to 80% psychological. I see too many people throwing reps away and not actually thinking about, where should I be feeling this? I'm doing a deadlift. I should be feeling this in my hamstrings and my glutes, not in my lower back. So if you're not feeling it in the right areas, you're doing it wrong, and you need to work on that. So deadlifts, you can do sumo deadlifts with the wide stance. You can do Romanian deadlifts or straight leg deadlifts, which is where you're keeping your legs straight. Funny enough, your knees are soft. You're holding the bar. Your feet are a bit close together for this. Your feet are kind of like shoulder width. Toes pointing out was a little bit. Everything you do, ladies and gents, right? If you want to hit your glutes, point your toes out to about 1 or 2 o'clock, and that automatically is going to give you a little bit more glute activation. So Romanian deadlifts is when you do a straight leg. So you'll just hinge from the hips again, stick your bum out as far as you can. But again, when you extend up, you really need to squeeze your glutes. Because if you're just doing it willy-nilly, yes, you might feel it in your hamstrings. If you're pushing your bum out far enough, that's a given. You're going to feel it in your hamstrings and not your lower back, right? Yes, that's good. If you're doing that, you're not feeling on the back, feel the hamstrings. When you extend, you need to squeeze your bum muscles to activate them, properly. So squats and deadlifts, hip thrusts, barbell hip thrusts, bar on your hips. I mentioned this in I think I mentioned this No? Anyway, bar on your hips. You can get a pad for this one, by the way, right? I'll allow you to get a pad for this one, because otherwise you're going to have bloody bruise all over your hips. Pad on the bar, and you're sitting the bar on your pelvis, in front of you, on your hips, and you're getting your shoulder blades onto a bench, okay, so you're elevated, and then you're literally from the floor, your bum is touching the floor, and you're extending right the way up until you're in the pelvic bridge position, and you're squeezing the hell out of your glutes. And that is a great exercise for building your bum muscles too. Lunges as well. Obviously, lunges are going to build your bum, but a lunge is essentially a squat. Okay, that's what a lunge is. So lunges, yes, it's a variation from a squat, essentially is what it is. So squats, hip thrust, lunges, Romanian deadlifts, sumo deadlifts. That's 5 exercises, technically, right? So with heavy weights and good form. So the point here is, before I go into my 5 top tips, is don't get led astray by all this fancy looking shit you see women doing. And yes, if you're doing the bands, do you know what? If you're doing stuff with the bands, you're going to feel it. It's going to burn. Yeah, it does. And that makes you think like, oh, it's really, really burning. It hurts. I'm building muscle. No, there's much more to building muscle than just, it's burning. It's just, it makes me laugh a bit, actually, because I used to actually be the same. I mean, I'm not being condescending here, because even up until a few years ago, bear in mind I've been a trainer for over a decade, I was all about pain, no pain, no gain, no days off and all this BS. It's not about that. It's about being clever with it and connecting to the muscles. So, my top 5 tips for building that booty. Right. Mobility. You need to loosen up your hips. You need to stretch. I don't like calling it stretching, because it's more of a dynamic warm-up. When people think of stretching, they think of like static stretches where you just hold in one stretch. No, let's call this mobility. So mobilize your hips prior to training, okay, in order to release any tight muscles and to prepare your nervous system, your central nervous system. And when you loosen your hips up and you prime yourself properly by doing, you can look at my videos. I'll tell you where to go at the end to check out my videos on YouTube. Just type in hip mobility on YouTube. Folks, as I said earlier, we've got all this information available. You have no excuse, okay, to do this properly. I'm giving you everything you need. All you've got to do is type it in on YouTube. Okay, so literally, mobilize your hips prior to training. Spend a good 5 to 10 minutes on the hips alone, because I know 99% of you out there are going to have tight hips one way or another, whether it's your hip flexors, the external rotators, but most of us have got tight, especially if you're sat down a lot. You're going to have tight hip flexors, which are going to impede on your squat, and essentially they're going to become, it's going to make you're not going to be as upright when you're squatting. You're going to be tilting forward, an anterior pelvic tilt, and you're not going to be getting the maximum activation on your glutes and putting more strain on your lower back. So number 1, mobilize your hip, okay? Mobility drills prior to training, especially squatting. Number 2, activate your bum muscles, okay? So particularly I'd say your glute medius, which are the muscles which connect onto the hips on the sides, the glute medius. Use the mini bands to do this by tying them around the ankles. So this is what I was going to say. The bands do have their place. And even machines, for example, you can get like hip extension machines, where you kind of are on your front and you're pushing back with your foot and extending your leg, activating your glutes. So activate your glutes. Now you can tie the bands around your ankles. Type in, again, if you want to buy these, you can buy them, the cheapest chips online. Type in mini bands. Order yourself some mini bands. It's literally, you're looking at like Australian dollars, $10, right, maximum. So get yourself some mini bands. Do some tubing, right, which is like, or the crab walk, whatever you want to call it, where you're like shuffle into the side with the band tied around your ankles. There's loads of different exercises you could do. Okay. In fact, I haven't put any on my YouTube yet. I'll get on and do that, actually, because that'll be helpful. But yeah, so just buy some mini bands. Okay. Have a look on YouTube again. Type in mini bands glute activation or anything, mini band warm up, whatever, and you'll find them all on YouTube. And it, literally, if you just do a few minutes of that after you've mobilized, after you've stretched, that's going to switch on your glute medius and activate your glutes, which means then when you squat, deadlift, lunge, you're going to get a lot more activation in the glutes, and therefore growth, baby. That's what we're talking about. Third one I've got here is, for example, you can put this in a few different ways. But I'll tend to promote this to people, and it's for example, I've had guys asking me, how do I build a chest like yours or whatever? How do I build a bigger chest? So I'm not trying to sound big-headed, but my chest is decent. My calves are shit though. But where was I? Yeah, so for example, any lagging body parts, I always recommend, a good thing to do is, it depends on the person, there's a lot of variations here, but if you do an isolation exercise prior to actually doing the main lift, for example with chest, I would say, right, do some chest flies on a pulley machine, just do a set of like 10 to 15 on a pulley machine or with dumbbells prior to doing a bench press, and that's going to then wake those muscles, wake the chest muscles up if you like, switch them on, get the blood flowing into the pectorals, and then boom, more activation when you bench. Same goes for squats and booty. Now, hip thrust with the barbell, as I mentioned earlier, it's a great activator for the glutes. Now, get that bar on your hips, thrust on a bench, go for anything, just say from about 8 to 12 reps. Don't have to go too heavy. Squeeze your bum muscles for maybe 2 seconds. Once you lift your hips up, flex for about 2 seconds, and that then is going to ensure, you switch on your glutes. You'll feel them burning a bit. Boom, do hip thrust straight into squats, a superset, okay, and just focus on feeling it in those glutes when you're squatting. Get down nice and deep, providing your technique's good. And trust me, just by doing that, so doing hip thrust is not technically an isolation exercise, but anyway, hip thrust with the barbell, straight into squats, boom, that's going to switch your glutes on and get you more activation. Or you could use a machine, so you could do like a hip extension machine, right? Just do single leg. That's how they're built. You normally do one leg at a time. Boom, boom. Do each leg and each glute, and then hop onto the squats or deadlifts or whatever you're doing, and bang, you're going to switch. Those glutes are going to be firing and raring to go. So yeah, we call that pre-exhaustion training, where you'll do an isolation exercise into a compound exercise, such as squats. Okay, so that's a really, really good tool. And number 4, okay, tense your butt cheeks when you're doing it for about 5 seconds, as hard as possible, every time you extend your legs, for example, while squatting. So just picture a squat in your head now. You've got that bar on your back. You're squatting down nice and deep, ideally. You're driving up. When you extend up, now there's a myth where you're not supposed to lock your knees. Bullshit. Lock your knees when you extend, okay? But when you lock your knees, the tension needs to be in your glutes. If you're not switching your glutes on and connecting to them, guess what? You may put some strain on your knees. So lock the knees out, squeeze your bum muscles for 5 seconds like your life depends on it, as hard as possible. Go down again, back up, 5 seconds. With this kind of training, I would say to do no more than about 8 reps. So you don't have to go too heavy either, because they're long ass reps. So if you're doing 6 reps, that's going to take you at least 30 seconds just to do 6 reps, right? So don't have to go too heavy. 6 to 8 reps, I would say, is a sweet spot. Get down nice and deep, extend, lock your knees, squeeze your glutes for 5 seconds, and do that every rep. You can do multiple sets on that as well. What was I going to say in relation to that? And that applies whilst I'm here. That applies to any body part. You could do it on chest, guys. So if you're doing a bench press, obviously de-rack the bar, lower the bar down to your chest, extend. When you extend the arms, again, lock the arms out. Not locking the joints is something which is not necessary. Okay, in fact, it's gonna be what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be forget about it. Stop using these long words. Anyway, it's going to get in the way. So take the bar off, down to your chest, extend the arms, and squeeze your pecs for like 5 seconds. Do that every rep. Sorry, banging on a bit there. Right, let's move on to the last one. Okay, so frequency, as I mentioned in the last podcast, I mentioned this a lot of times. And folks, I've got to thank Mind Pump Media. Okay, go listen to their podcast. A lot of the stuff I've learned, literally I'd say about 80% of the stuff I've learned over the last year or two has been directly from that podcast. And it's not just for people who are at a high level, it's for any Tom, Dick and Harry. So they do simplify it, it's funny. Anyway, frequency is something I've learned from them. The more frequently you hit the body parts, the faster your muscles will grow, and you don't actually have to break the muscles down. You don't have to go hard every time you hit them. You just got to do something to activate the muscles, send the muscle building signal. It's very clever. It's just something that I wasn't aware of before. So anyway, relating this to the bum muscles, hit the bum muscles every day, right? If you want to build your bum muscles, you want to build any body part, the more frequently you hit that body part, the faster they're going to grow, okay? Within reason, okay, if you're doing it properly. So, for example, every day, because I always like kind of used to struggle with legs and still do. If I don't put the work in on my legs, then they're out of proportion straight away overnight, literally. So lately I'm just doing 100 squats every day, and not every day. So the 3 sessions I do in the gym, I do 3 big sessions which are weight training, so I don't need to do it because I'm doing heavy squats. Days in between I'm doing 100 squats minimum, and then I'll do some other stuff. But it's not intense. It's just movement, mobility, and just making sure I do 100 squats every day. So, for example, even if you do 40 bodyweight deep squats, like if you could do that like 2 to 3 times a day, again, if you do it more frequently, it's better. So if you were to do, like, say, I know anything from 20 to 50, even say 30 to 50 squats 2 to 3 times a day, on the days in between your hammer and your legs or whatever you're doing in the gym, that then is going to activate your muscles. It's going to build your bum muscles and build your legs as well. But if you want to really focus on bum muscles, girls, a lot of us are quad dominant, so we'll tend to hit the quads more when you're squatting. So when you're doing the bodyweight squats, when you extend, you squeeze your glutes for a second. Just make sure you're squeezing them and you're focusing on switching the attention to activating your booty. So the 5th one was hit the bum muscles every day, even if it was 30 or 50 bodyweight squats a few times a day, and that will send that muscle building signal more often, meaning more booty growth. And again, you can apply that to anything. Guys, you're looking to build your chest, guess what I'm going to say? The days in between, bang out some press-ups. You know, it's common sense. You're not breaking the muscles down. In fact, you're going to aid recovery as well, folks. That's another key element. When you're doing that, you're going to aid recovery because you're getting blood flowing into the muscles. It's low intensity, so it helps you recover, but it also builds muscle. Great! It's a win-win. Okay, so I hope that's helped. Just to summarize that now, right? Mobilize your hip. Mobility is key. Okay. Number 2, these are not in any particular order, by the way. Number 2, activate your bum muscles. Use the bands. Do some hip thrusts. Do some pelvic floor bridges, even just body weight pelvic floor bridges. Number 3. Supersets, so do pre-exhaustion where you're doing like hip thrusts with a bar straight into squats, or hip extensions straight into squats. So an isolation exercise followed by a compound exercise. Number 4, tense your butt cheeks for 5 seconds every rep whilst squatting or deadlifts or whatever it is. Number 5, hit the bum muscles every day or hit the legs every day. Okay, every day. Even if it is just body weight and low intensity. In fact, if you're hitting them hard in the gym, it needs to be low intensity. So if you go overboard on those days in between and you try doing 200 or you try overdoing it, guess what? It could have an adverse effect because you're going to damage the muscles. And then what happens when you damage the muscles is the body wants to repair the muscles. So it will delay the growth because the body's number 1 priority, if you break the muscles down, is to repair them first before it considers growing. You see what I mean? I hope that makes sense. Anyway, before I bump my gums for too long, I think I'm going to wrap that one up. I'm keeping them short and sweet lately, folks. I'll be getting some really interesting people to jump on an interview over the next coming weeks, so stay tuned. And yes, if you're looking to build muscle and you're looking to build an admirable physique, trust me, my 9-week Build Your Best Body program is a game changer. You can head over to my website and buy that, purchase that. I'll give you an exclusive code. So the code is 50% code, by the way, as well, MS Founder. So my initials, M for Martin, S for Silva, Founder, Founder. You get 50% off because you're listening to my podcast, so I'm going to look after you. So you can head over to my website, martin-silva.co.uk, to purchase that. Also, my 28-day challenge is on there as well, the fat burning challenge, which is great if you're looking to shred some fat for the summer or whatever it is. Insane results for that, and also it's going to help you build a healthy relationship with food and improve your eating habits, which is really important for long-term success. And please, 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 I'm begging you to head over to iTunes and give me a 5-star rating and review. It would be a massive help. And yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And don't forget to go follow me on Instagram if you don't already, at Martin Silva Fitness, because that's where I do my ting. Yeah, and once again, thank you very much for tuning in, folks. It means a lot to me that you're taking your time out and filling your brain with Martin Silva info. So thank you very much. Over and out.